So majority of Skyblock items work pretty flawlessly. Not to say that they don't have the problems sometimes, but for the most part it's all pretty smooth. Except for when it's not. How about those items that have been implemented into the game, and they've kind of just been left in a broken state for a very long time? Now you might be thinking, are you referring to just items that are way too OP that have never been nerfed? And the answer to that would be no. There's weapons and items in this game that have been in the game for a very long time and never really worked properly, and now don't work at all. Items with features that are completely disabled, and that have no real endpoint in sight. Today we're going to test those items to see what state they're in and what Hypixel could do to actually fix this. Make sure to vote for Nitros with 2 eyes in the upcoming election, and let's get into the video. So the first item we're going to be taking a look at today is the Soul's Rebound bow. Now this bow has ridiculously high base damage at 450, kind of crazy for a bow. However, it's this actual ability and dialogue that dictates what the weapon does that is pretty important. Your arrows mark enemies you hit for 5 seconds. Marked enemies don't take damage from you. Once the mark expires, the target will receive a burst of damage equal to all the damage dealt during the mark, increased by up to 10%. Now, the frustrating thing about the Soul's Rebound is that the concept of this weapon is really, really cool, and it's really, really unique, and there isn't really anything like it throughout the rest of Skyblock. It's just completely different, which is good. You know, nowadays we have so many like melee weapons that are all the same. We have so many short bows that are basically all the same too. Like we have mage weapons that create explosions. But this is actually something different. Now what's interesting is just looking at a really, really old clip of a Soul's Rebound being used when it actually used to work. This was slightly different. Damage dealt during the mark increased by up to 10% is what we have now, and it used to be 20%. We're going to find out this is all irrelevant because it now doesn't work. Okay, let's give this weapon a try. So what we should be able to do is we should be able to shoot, I don't know, this zombie for instance. It's not going to deal any damage initially. This is how it's supposed to work. I don't know how it will actually work. Then we can hit that zombie with whatever weapon we want. We can smack it as many times as we want. And after 5 seconds, it will deal a huge combined damage figure to that zombie, equivalent to the damage that we dealt in that period of time, plus 10%. Let's see how it actually works right now. Oh. I didn't know it was literally just gonna... I can't even use it as just like a regular bow. Wow, that's just silly. I feel like we should really see how it's supposed to work. But just before we do, if you are planning on purchasing anything from the Hypixel store, make sure to use code Nitros as it gets yourself 5% off. If you watch the videos and you haven't subscribed, please make sure to do so. You should join the Discord server. It's linked in the description of this video. We offer slayers and dungeon carries, so if you need carries or want to carry and make some coins, make sure to join. So to see how this bow actually works, I found a video from YOLO McSwaggin from 4 years ago. Soul's Rebound is actually insane. And yeah, I was expecting to see something similar to this, but maybe the damage just didn't work properly, but obviously it's completely disabled nowadays. Let's see how it's actually supposed to work. I'll leave a link to this video in the description.
So if we hit this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay. Okay. Yo!
So yeah, this bow could be really, really cool, but it's not because it doesn't work. So just to give a bit of context so you understand how long this item, this weapon has been disabled for. This forum post is from July 2024, saying does anyone here know when the Soul's Rebound will be enabled again? And a reply to this post on the same day saying Soul's Rebound being disabled for the time being is a good thing until it's fixed. Which I agree with. However, it's been a year and a half, almost. Now you might be thinking, well, why is this weapon even disabled? Most people probably haven't even heard of it. If you're relatively new to the game, it's been disabled for that long, why would you even know about it? Well, from what I gather, and I believe there was no official reasoning given as to why it was disabled in the first place, but it was involved in a lot of one-tap methods that I guess Hypixel just didn't like. Being able to one-tap Slayer bosses, I think more specifically probably E-Man, along with other exploits and creating lag. Yeah, quite the problematic weapon. But what can Hypixel do to get this back on the road? I mean, there's one massive, massive issue with this bow at the end of the day, and that's the fact that bows are just not great in Hypixel Skyblock if they're not a short bow, and this quite clearly isn't a short bow. But how could they short bowify a Soul's Rebound without it being crazy OP? Just not really sure how to answer that. Like, if you have any sort of ideas, feel free to leave them in the comments, but for now, it's kind of a rip. Well, the next item requires me to spend 200 mil, and to be fair, I don't have a Primordial, and I guess it's something I can put in the museum if I really want to. But even after mentioning the word Primordial multiple times, if you're not sure what I'm going to be talking about next, it is the Primordial. But Nitros, what is the Primordial? Well, it's a piece of equipment. It's a belt with a really, really cool ability. Well, what should be a cool ability anyway, should I say. It's obtainable by crafting a Primordial Eye, pretty much the penultimate drop that you can get from Spider Slayer, with 2 Shriveled Wasps, which are other decent drops from Spider Slayer, with some Tarantula Silk and Soul String. It's just completely craftable by basically working your way through Spider Slayer and getting a bit lucky. Now, at base, the Primordial gives 15 strength and 20 crit damage, which for a belt is already really good. But what really is the selling point about this belt is the ability, the Forced Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis? I think so. When killing a Slayer boss or a Slayer mini-boss, have a 10% chance to cocoon them. Cocooned enemies will quickly hatch and can be killed again. So, in other words, what this means is every single time you kill a Slayer boss or a Slayer mini-boss, you have a 10% chance to kill them again. Meaning that, of course, you don't have to, if you spawn a boss again, then that means that you don't have to go through the rigmarole of spawning the boss. If you basically cocoon a mini-boss and spawn a mini-boss again, obviously you don't have to go through the rigmarole of killing more regular mobs to then get to another mini-boss, therefore spawning the boss quicker. Now, at absolute minimum, a 1 in 10 to spawn another Slayer boss is just simply 10% more Slayer XP. And in theory, it will be slightly more than 10% if you're going to be spawning mini-bosses more frequently too. So, all in all, this item, if it works, is sublime, is great. However, we'll test it out in just a moment, and we'll soon figure out that this doesn't work. The crazy thing is this has not been in the game for that long. So just for the sake of ease, we're going to do some revs to test this out. Also, can we just appreciate the absolute insanity of the amount of XP for Slayers that you get at the moment? It's absolutely filthy and it's great. It really is. But you really have to wonder, like, just how good the Primordial would be in this sort of situation right now. Like, not only are we getting what, around about 4,000 or maybe even more than 4,000 XP per Rev Slayer boss, but then we're also having a 10% chance to get more mini-bosses, and also more bosses. Yeah. Okay, so I've now done 3 bosses, and we've still not had anything be cocooned, which, like, it's a pointless task. I know we're not going to get anything, but I just kind of want to test it anyway, just to show. Okay, I actually kind of forgot how fun doing revs with a good setup is, because I'm always, if I'm doing them, just doing them on my Iron Man at the moment, and it's kind of a pain to kill the bosses still, which is kind of annoying. But just being able to delete them in like 2 taps is just great. Well, this is going to be, yeah, this is the 20th boss, and we've had over 20 mini-bosses too. And we've not even had one single one of them cocoon. It is pretty damn obviously disabled. Like I said, that was already pretty common knowledge, but I just thought I'd test it anyway. Now, I think, personally, that there is a really, really, really easy fix for the Primordial. But before that, I think we should even maybe just take a look at why it's disabled. And I've come across this post, and I have heard of this explanation before as well. The question basically is just, why is the Primordial not working? The question that we've pretty much been posing the whole time. The admins have disabled it due to a bug, where if you cocoon a tier 1 boss, you can quickly cancel it and change it to a tier 4. Once the tier 1 was killed, you finish the quest for the tier 4. So it's pretty clear that there is just a straight up issue with the mechanic of cocooning. And while it is a really, really cool idea, if it's something they're going to struggle to re-enable, you know, this Primordial is still a relatively new item. Really, you're going to be wanting this to be working, and pretty quickly, and it's been disabled for some time. Now, for me, if they just wanted to get it working again straight away, they could just change the perk so it doesn't cocoon, and it basically just gives you 10% more Slayer XP. Because it's pretty much doing that anyway. Maybe giving you slightly more than 10%. Or maybe slightly less because you still have to kill the boss. It depends how you want to look at it. But I feel like that would pretty much be a like-for-like change, like a like-for-like replacement. And it would at least have the item working, as it's pretty much intended, until they can figure out the whole cocooning mechanic and not make it bug. Well, they're just my thoughts. You don't have to agree with them. You can let me know in the comments. Like, I do acknowledge that it is a really cool mechanic. However, if it isn't going to work, it's not going to work. But anyway, that's going to be all for today's video. Definitely 2 of more of the high-profile disabled items right now. If you enjoyed today's video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next one.